Paladins are the true heroes of Bretonnia. No, I really mean that. They're only one of two hero types that you can take. You exclude, legendaries. But they are definitely very, very good. Probably one of the better kind of generic melee hero types in the game. Given their cost effectiveness, really don't cost much at all. Their stats aren't amazing, except they do have 70 charge bonus, which is really quite nice. And 20 bonus versus large is also pretty decent. 75 speed, pretty fast for a heavy cavalry. Character, 105 armor, also pretty solid. So just kind of all around decent, but definitely that charge bonus and anti-large means they're pretty good for countercharging or cycle charging single entities, especially those that don't have too much armor. But against the Beastmen, you don't really need to worry too much about that. There aren't too many single entities here, except for the Eye of Morslib. And we've got some Chaos Spawn, which will also be great targets as well. Some Ungor Raiders here, Blackhorns Ravagers, Ungor Spear Herds, and Ungor Herds, Chaos Poison Warhounds. For Bretonnia, a nice line of Peasant Bowmen, a bunch of mobs to kind of make up numbers, Spearmen at Arms up front to absorb the charge, and then the Paladins with just 2 questing knights, so relatively small cavalry contingent in case of some high armor units, but there really aren't any high armor units here at all. Morgar, of course, leading the way with a Shadowcaster who's going to drop some Penumbral Pendulum right off the bat, just right down the line here, take out a bunch of peasants, but I mean, they are just men-at-arms, so it's fine. The Paladins, though, fighting up close and personal against the horrors of chaos here. Just striking them down. Oh yeah, nice Righteous Smite there. Another nice Righteous Backstab. And that's all it takes. They're just absolutely wrecking shop against these guys, of course, providing some protection for the Fae as well. This time, the Bretonnian player did not actually take Guardian on them, so there's not quite as much ridiculous resistance stacking on the Fae Enchantress, but definitely Paladins with Guardian can help that. Given that the Fae has magic resistance baseline, it's exceptionally powerful for her. In particular, nice Earthblood there on those Grail Knights. Oh, I didn't miss. There was actually more cavalry. Okay, so pretty significant cavalry contingent. There we go. Grail Knights, that's what I'm talking about. Plowing into that flank there. They do get kind of bogged up a little bit here, though. Some Poison Warhounds, some Spears and other stuff. The Spawn also are pretty tough targets, honestly, with the Poison and decent weapon strength. But they and the Paladins still holding the center. We got some mobs following up with their pitchforks and so on. And, they're not really going to do much except get hit by Ungors here. But that's fine. Maybe they will actually get some hits in. Come on, boys. Swing those hammers. You'll be fine. Yeah, Paladins, though. We got one here, the other one up there. A little bit surrounded, somewhat, by Ungor herds, but that's fine. He can sit here and act as a blob for these archers to fire in. Got Chaos Spawn chasing off some of the archers, but they are just summoned ones. They're about to fade, so no problem there. The Enchantress, though, in a little bit of trouble here as she gets caught up by some Chaos Spawn and Morgar. She's going to be able to get away from that situation. Didn't get too surrounded, thankfully. Meanwhile, the Grail Knights there in the back line fighting the Eye of Morslib, definitely doing some really nice damage on the charge, but the Eye of Morslib can punch back hard. And since he does magic damage, it will do, full true damage. Maybe it'll be able to take out some models here. Yeah, it looks like might have smashed a couple of knights there. The questing knights also kind of pulling back for now, pulling some resources away. And this Paladin finally going to be freed up from that stuff. Destroyers of Drakvald and more there. The other Paladin managed to get back with the Fae. A nice Awakening of the Wood to get rid of those Ungors. Paladin now matched up against Morgar. Morgar obviously doesn't count as large. Doesn't have the best stats in the world. He is a little bit better than the Paladin, though. And that regeneration means he'd probably be able to win. Paladin's just got a lot less HP overall as well. But, there's still the Fae here, and, oh, look, there's the other Paladin. It's the great thing about the Paladins, too, is with the Fae, you can take them in pairs, and suddenly their power doubles. And you guys hear me talk about this a decent amount. Single entity fights, usually if you outnumber your opponent, kind of regardless, not necessarily fully regardless, like if you have 3 casters fighting a Star Dragon, probably still lose, although you'll do decently. But basically, like in single entity fights, if you outnumber your opponent, you can probably win, even fighting like monsters and stuff. So this kind of mobile hero squad in particular can be quite nice. Oh, brutal shot, though, from the Eye of Morsleep, throwing into the back of these Grail Knights as they struggle to finish off the spawn pocket here. But Morgar's routed at this point. He got beat up pretty bad by those Paladins, and the Chaos Spawn are just barely holding things together at this point. Although Bretonnia is also barely still holding together. The Warp Gaze there being used to freeze those Grail Knights in place. They're about to hammer home against those Ungor Raiders. Things are really not looking great, especially because the HP of the Fae is so down significantly. But Morgar is shattered at this point. It's pretty hard to do, to be honest. He has quite a bit of healing cap space left, so not something you see all the time. Questing Knights also charging home, getting on those Blackhorns Ravagers there. Just the number of spawn left is concerning, because you can't cheese them off with shock damage and leadership. I say cheese, it's not really cheese, but the Ungor units, you know, you hit them even with a handful of Grail Knights hard enough, and they'll probably rout just because their leadership isn't that great to begin with. But oh man, one of them just getting catapulted across the battlefield. Not sure what happened there, but the Eye of Morsleep being alive is definitely still a problem for these multi-model units. Grail Knights just getting pounded there, and not a lot you can do other than try and get back there potentially. The Paladins could maybe if they make a push with the Fae, but it looks like another one been somewhat caught up here by the Blackhorns Ravagers and these Chaos Spawns, so yeah, we'll probably need to bail him out as a priority, because you'll need all three of the Fae and the two Paladins to kill the Cygor, most likely. It's hard to say for certain with things in this game, because there is a pretty heavy element of RNG in single entity fights, but stacking the numbers in your favor definitely helps. The Grail Knights do get a really nice charge here on these Chaos Spawn. Melkos Mystifying Miasma, countered with a nice Earthblood there. Grail Knights, their physical resistance doesn't help against the rocks, does help against the spawn. The Blackhorns Ravagers providing a little bit of an HP sponge as well. They are being drained by the Fae's Mortis effect, as are the spawn, of course. But the Paladins are here. Unfortunately, they're not quite fighting the spawn, which would maybe be a little bit better, but the Grail Knights are doing decently. There's only 7 left. Definitely have acquitted themselves well here. They're going to be pulling back. You know, definitely not retreating, of course. Or running away, let's say. But speaking of running away, those peasants are just about to run away from the Ungor herds. These Pox arrows also rout, so really not looking great. One Paladin moves out, decides, you know what, actually, let's come back. We can finish the spawn here. One goes down there. Fae strikes another. And that should be it there. Yep. Spawn do go down. A nice catch, peasants. That's actually exactly what you should be doing at this point, is catching those giant rocks with your face so they don't hit something more important, like even these archers. There's 6 Grail Knights there, so maybe they can do something as well. But the Fae's Drain, of course, in the late game, very strong. The fact that both these Paladins are still here means that they can potentially try and get some work done. Penumbral Pendulum going to be dropped. Oof. Like 4 unlucky peasants get hit by that. But these Beastmen units, similar to a Greenskins replay we saw recently, the leadership is going to come into effect as they are drained and attacked from multiple directions by these different single entity units. They're going to get routed pretty easily. But let's fast forward a little bit through this cleanup as the Fae Enchantress and these 2 Paladins go after Hounds. Eventually they're going to get into a situation where they can't you know, not fight the Eye of Morsleep. The magic resistance of the Fae is really good here. The Pegasus plus her own innate magic resistance is pretty significant, up to 60%. So the Cygor won't actually hit her all that hard, only 360 weapon strength baseline in melee, so it's hitting for maybe about 100 weapon strength. You know, around, yeah, 100 weapon strength or so. That's really, I mean, it's like one monstrous infantry model fighting her, so it's really not too much of an issue to worry about. So she can kind of sit in here and fight no problem. Paladins, of course, providing a little bit of anti-large. There's literally 2 Grail Knights here as well, which is so cool. One of the reasons I love Bretonnia, and they both pay the price there. Ultimate price for the lady. But how about that? A full unit of Grail Knights fights to the man. That is very loreful. Eye of Morsleep just not feeling great at this point. Fighting these 2 Paladins. 3-on-1 goes to 2-on-1, and even still, it's not a fair fight because of the Peasant Archers poisoning. Really nice job with the Pox Arrows staying on in the late game, and that's pretty much a wrap at that point. Morslip actually just gets slain by a Paladin there, so he completes his quest. And Bretonnia wins. How about that? Beautiful replay. Big thanks to Bot Ludwig. His opponent, also a very solid German player. I've played him before, and we've had some great fights. So fun stuff. Really nice back and forth. Looked very bad for Bretonnia, but those single entities definitely carrying. And the Paladins are just so cost effective in this role. Like, they really don't cost much at all in comparison to some other kind of generic melee heroes. But Fey Enchantress gets 100 kills with her Drain, and also has pretty decent charge herself. Questing Knights and Grail Knights also getting some pretty good kill totals. Not a lot of chevrons to go around. Some nice kills spread on the Peasants too. 54 and 91 on these Pox Arrows. Very solid, taking out a whole bunch of Ungors. The Ungor herds I'm not the biggest fan of. I think you probably just swap them out for 5 spears in this matchup and then reallocate the rest of the funds. But yeah, I guess they trade decently against Peasants. 59 kills on this one. It's actually not too bad. 128 for some Hounds. Great cleanup there. 141 for the Eye of Morslip. Used up all its ammo, and a lot of those 141 are a lot of these cavalry as well, which is nice. The Spawn did some decent work, but they ended up getting killed by the Paladins, pretty much. So yeah, just to kind of compare some other generic melee heroes, we'll keep Lizardman here for theirs. He's also a kind of an anti-large dude, right? Does have access to monster mounts, which the Paladin does not. Honestly, I think they probably should just give the Paladin a Hippogriff mount at this point. But you kind of compare him on the cold one, you'll see that no abilities here. Paladin's only 650 points. That is significantly cheaper, and yeah, he's kind of worse all around, although melee stats, attack and defense, are basically interchangeable. He is faster, less leadership, a little more armor, less HP, you know, so it's kind of a bit of give and take. He does have less charge bonus, or sorry, less weapon strength, but charge bonus, non-AP, which is definitely not great, but surprisingly pretty similar stats given that this guy is so much cheaper. We take a look at, say, I don't know, the Dark Elf Master, same thing. He has anti-large armor piercing. He has 92 speed, which is just amazing, and really decent stats, but less charge. Does have murderous prowess, but less weapon strength overall as well, and he even has more HP, which is surprising to me, but less armor. So, you know, some trade-offs there. Master is actually pretty cost-effective as well, but the Paladin's really kind of the cheapest of these anti-large type heroes, right? The Empire Captain, which is cheaper, does not have anti-large. He is even more basic, and only 550 points. Also pretty cost-effective at that price, but kind of lacks the anti-large, and has a little bit better melee attack, tiny bit faster as well, which again, kind of surprising to me, but less armor, so I guess that's the reason why. And again, no anti-large and just a little bit less weapon strength, so the fact that the Paladin can take Guardian as well is quite nice. Empire Captain has Hold the Line, which is okay. I mean, it's kind of the standard Empire quote-unquote army ability, which is pretty decent, plus 5 melee defense and 4 leadership. But this physical resistance in particular, with the Fey Enchantress, Lewin also benefits from it because he has physical resistance baseline from the Blessing of the Lady, as does the Fey Enchantress. You know, all the lords definitely benefit from it, but in particular the Lewin and Fey with the stacking resistances makes it, in my opinion, very, very good. And you really only need to take it on one of them, like if you're running them kind of all in a squad, right? You can take the other one down to 650, something like this, with the Fey Enchantress, and you've got a relatively cheap, you know, kind of heroic core here that still has pretty strong abilities, you know, and you're really not spending a lot for what you get. You do get 3 single entities, which is something that Bretonnia lacks entirely outside of their heroes, so I would argue in pretty much every matchup you want to be maxing out your hero slots with Bretonnia just because of that fact, and a Paladin will basically always be one of those, right? I mean, I guess unless you're bringing Gotrek or the Green Knight, which there is a case to be made in some matchups where you should, but this hero squad in particular I really like because they're all mobile, they all kind of support each other very well, and Fey Enchantress, yeah, 74 charge, has actually even more charge than them, which is just fantastic. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.